This is Advice for Life with Al Laws, CEO of Wynn Family Services, here in Baltimore, Maryland. Here on Advice for Life, we're discovering exciting ways to make our relationships better. Stay tuned and we'll be right back to get into today's program.
Have you been called to help troubled youth? We have a place for you at Wynn Family Services, a faith-based mental health agency. Wynn Family Services is reaching out to the family of God, particularly men, to provide counseling and nurturing to young people. There is an ongoing need to support at-risk youth facing issues in school and at home. We offer flexible schedules to earn extra income. Hourly rate ranges from $25 to $30. We need strong male role models for our youth. Please call 410-578-8004 today to learn more. That's 410-578-8004. You can also visit us online at winfamilyservices.org. Again, that is winfamilyservices.org, and go to the career section to get info about this awesome opportunity to be a mentor and counselor to at-risk youth. Would you or someone you know benefit from having a mentor or counselor? Individuals with mental health, emotional, or behavioral concerns can rediscover happiness if provided the right support. We have it here at Wynn Family Services, a faith-based community mental health program that provides free counseling, therapy, and mentoring for youths and adults. Services include mentoring, creative therapy, youth stability within their homes, family strengthening, communication skills, community resources, and our Dream Talent Development Program. Call 443-423-0334 today. That's 443-423-0334 to get help from Wynn Family Services.
Welcome to Advice for Life with Al Laws, CEO of Wynn Family Services, here in Baltimore, Maryland. Al Laws has over 25 years of experience in the mental health field, advocating and pioneering for individuals, families, and communities with family strengthening, and now wants to share a holistic insight for making relationships better. Now, here is Al Laws.
God bless you. Thanks for joining us for Advice for Life, where we are committed to improving your relationships. Advice for your life. Love life and cherish advice. I also say find good and good will find you. Greetings. This is Al Laws, CEO of Wynn Family Services, and your host for Advice for Life, and my co-host, Greg Harris.
Hey there, Al. How are things?
I'm wonderful because that's how I see it. I'm going to see it as good.
See it as good. That's right. That's what's up.
So we have been really on this marvelous journey talking about the 7 rules of family strengthening, thinking something good, saying something good, and doing something good. And so we talked a lot in our last program and went back to talk about thinking something good. And I challenge listeners about going through the week and paying attention to their thought processes and recognizing when they are thinking something that is negative and not good. And I'm hoping you followed through on that. I'm hoping all of you went out and began to look at how you responded when your husband says something, or when your wife says something, or when your children did something, or even when your pastor says something that you didn't like.
Right.
Because that happens. I mean, people have pastors for Sunday lunch. They listen to the pastor, and either because they got convicted or just because they didn't agree with what the pastor was saying, or they have people just chew pastors up, outside of the church, or another person in your congregation. And so you can go through when you're in church and when you're at work, somebody at work that you don't really like,
wow.
or you don't think they like you,
right?
Or you got to pray for this person. Lord, I got to pray for so and so and so and so because they get on my nerves,
my last nerve.
And so I'm challenging you, and I hope you took the challenge to go through the week and process and think about what you were thinking. Because, as I said, that's the foundation for us to go into understanding what you say. Because
right.
You have to be thoughtful and considerate and recognize what you're thinking. So now you can be conscious about what you're saying. And last time we talked about the fact that people, a lot of times, Greg, say things very quickly, say things without really considering what they're saying, because they haven't considered their thoughts. And so their thoughts race through their minds and it comes out of their mouth and they just feel like they have to say it, almost like they got to get it off their chest.
Right. You know, my parents always would say, engage your brain before you engage your mouth.
That's very, 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 very wise. Right. So what happens is that people are so used to just allowing words because they don't know that they are spirit and they are life. They don't know how they affect not only the course of what goes on in someone else's life, but it also affects the course of what goes on in their life.
Yeah.
And as I said in the last program, that it's almost like a computer program. You're speaking and you're saying things and not realizing how it is affecting the course of your own life.
Right. Right.
And so we tend to say things. That's what happens. We just start saying things. And a lot of times I believe we just say things out of our mouth because I just said we want to get it off of us because we think somehow if we say it with the words, if our words are said, that somehow it takes it off of us. And really what happens is that it doesn't take it off of you. In fact, when you just say words without thinking about them, without really contemplating and recognizing the spiritual consequence of what you're saying, you actually still now have a heavier responsibility on yourself because now you have to now be an agent of ministering because of the words that you said. And sometimes people don't do their job of ministering because they don't recognize that they have just said words and they have injured and they have just gone on and just said things without considering it, and they have missed their ministry. You know, a lot of people say, you know, my ministry is I'm an evangelist. My ministry, I'm a teacher. Your first ministry is to minister and heal your brethren, your wife, your child, your teacher, your pastor, your deacon. Your first ministry is to make sure you treat them with the right character, because God has taught us is that you should do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So if you would not want someone to be not have thoughtfulness when they speak to you, why would you speak to someone without thoughtfulness? I also say if you are saying something, you should be saying to yourself, would I want someone to say that to me?
Right. Right. And that's the quick part. That's the easy part, you know, of looking at that and judging that thing. So that's powerful.
Well, it should be easy, Greg, but it's not always easy because we're not thoughtful about it. So what I'm saying is that not only are we trying to get it off of our chest, meaning that trying to push off our irresponsibility as relates to not being conscious about what we're thinking and not being conscious and sensitive and godly about what we're saying. We also are just saying things, as I said before, because we want to be heard. And we have thoughts and feelings that are happening inside of us. Some of the feelings are so deep because of either an action that somebody did or somebody said something to us, and we have that feeling that hits us. We got pain, or we're embarrassed, or we're hurt. We feel disrespected. And so we have this tendency when we have these very deep feelings to just blurt out something in a reaction to what has happened to us, rather than, as Jesus did, as a response. Jesus always responded about what happened to him. Jesus always had a response. He did not react because he was thoughtful. Even when he drug his hand in the sand, he was thinking about how he was going to respond.
What I'm hearing from what you're saying is that, you know, this requires a whole nother level of responsibility and maturity, spiritual maturity. So if somebody says something, as you're saying, you know, that can hurt and that can pain you, it's like the old saying goes, treat it like water on a duck's back. To where duck don't drown. You know, now water hits the duck, what does it do? It rolls off because their feathers have that level of oil in it and all that. So it just rolls right off. So we have to have that level, or should develop into that level, to where when things are being said towards us to that degree, I'm going to be at peace with my brother. I'm going to be at peace with that person, with what is said and what is happening, because I'm not going to allow that to affect me.
Well, I think people try to take that position at different times, but a lot of times we don't have the skillfulness within us to really understand how to either, which we'll talk about another time, plan, ignore what someone is saying.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good.
Or we don't have the skills necessary for us to be able to recognize that this is our opportunity to now think something different.
Right.
You know, we're going to talk about this also, another skill called reframing, where we look at something and we put a different frame on it. You know, if you take a picture and you put a frame on it, it can look one way. If you put another frame on it, it looks totally different depending on what. I just bought a piece of art, and I'm telling you, the art that I saw the picture and I saw a frame on it, and I said, I like the picture, but I don't like the frame. I asked them, could they put it in a frame of another picture I saw? And when that picture came back, that picture looked fabulous.
Wow.
Because of the framing on it. So sometimes we have to learn when people are saying things to us that we have to reframe it. We put a different frame on it, and that gives us a different picture so that we can control how we think about it, because that's what we're talking about, and what we say about it.
Wow.
So we were talking in our last program, we were in James chapter 3, and I'm going to go back to it. James chapter 3, verse 2. For in many things we offend all. And we talked about how it's easy for us to offend people. If any man does not offend in his words, the same is a perfect or mature man. That means that God is saying, if you really want to be mature, you know, people say, I want to be a mature Christian. I want to grow up in God. Well, if you want,
Amen.
If you want to grow up in God, then the first thing you need to go to is your mouth.
Wow.
The first thing you need to go to is your speech. The first thing you need to go to is what you say to other people. Because he says that when you learn how to say things properly, when you learn how to be sensitive and thoughtful about what you say, he says now you are becoming a mature man or woman.
Wow.
And in fact, I'll say it this way. When you have not learned how to control what you say, if you just feel like, oh, that just came out, and somebody said something to you and you just blurt something back out at them, and you were reacting to them rather than responding, I'm saying you're immature. I mean, according to what God says, you are not mature if you do not know how to respond to people in the proper way. And it's not just a phony response. I'm not just talking about, someone says something that hurts you and you just say, oh, well, I'll just let it go. You know, that's how they are. No, I'm saying that actually when someone says something that hurts you, first you have to be mature enough to recognize and identify that it hurts you. And you have to be able to label that feeling that you have. If you were embarrassed, you have to say, I was embarrassed.
Right.
You know?
Right.
If you feel overlooked, you have to say, I feel overlooked. If you feel like you were betrayed, you have to say, I feel betrayed.
Wow.
And so that identifying that feeling makes you a mature person. And then once you identify the feeling, then you have to think something good. That means you have to take what the person says, and it may sound worthless to you. Remember?
Right.
If it's worthless, now you have to extract. You have to get out your magnifying glass, your telescope. You have to do whatever you can to see the small speck
of good,
and extract it, and then think something good about it. And then that will put you in a position to now be at rest and at peace.
Right.
To respond and not react and say something good. So the same as a perfect man, also able to bridle and control his whole body. And so that's a very powerful thing. When you can actually control your whole body, it actually means controlling not just your body, but your whole circle of life. Now, later on in the scripture, it says, and the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity.
Man.
Actually, that word world means the cosmos. So it's not just talking, it does include our world, but the cosmos meaning the universe, all the stars, all the planets, all the comets, as far as you can go, the Milky Way. He's saying that our tongue is a fire and a universe of iniquity. That's a lot. And we're going to learn more about how to deal with that universe of our mouth when we come back
on the way to church. Good gracious. We're on fire here, y'all. So, hey, stay with us. We're going to be right back.
Have you been called to help troubled youth? We have a place for you at Win Family Services, a faith-based mental health agency. Win Family Services is reaching out to the family of God, particularly men, to provide counseling and nurturing to young people. There is an ongoing need to support at-risk youth facing issues in school and at home. We offer flexible schedules to earn extra income. Hourly rate ranges from $25 to $30. We need strong male role models for our youth. Please call 410-578-8004 today to learn more. That's 410-578-8004. You can also visit us online at winfamilyservices.org. Again, that is winfamilyservices.org, and go to the career section to get info about this awesome opportunity to be a mentor and counselor to at-risk youth. Would you or someone you know benefit from having a mentor or counselor? Individuals with mental health, emotional, or behavioral concerns can rediscover happiness if provided the right support. We have it here at Win Family Services, a faith-based community mental health program that provides free counseling, therapy, and mentoring for youths and adults. Services include mentoring, creative therapy, youth stability within their homes, family strengthening, communication skills, community resources, and our Dream Talent Development Program. Call 443-423-0334 today. That's 443-423-0334 to get help from Win Family Services.
And we are back here, continuing with Advice for Life, and Al is blessing us, talking about what we say. But right now, I just want to encourage everyone, call in 410-578-8004. Share with us a testimony, share with us how this has been a blessing to you, and share a scenario that we can apply family strengthening to be a blessing to you. Also, check out our website at advice4life.us. Hit us up on Facebook as well, Advice for Life.
Yes, and I'm glad we're back. And as you said, Greg, we've been dealing with the fire of the universe.
In our tongue.
People think a comet is a fire. We look at our sun, which is a large star that burns, and I don't want to go into all the details because I'll start going down my scientific path.
Which you can,
but let me tell you that, just one sunburst from the sun is more powerful than thousands of atomic bombs. I mean, that's just one burst from the sun. So you know how powerful the sun is. But God is saying that the fire, the burst that comes from the tongue, is the real fire in the universe. So we read in that scripture that on James chapter 3, verse 6, and the tongue is a fire. That actually, that word fire comes from the Greek word pyra, which is what most people know pyro, because they know pyromaniac, a person who is crazy about setting fires, pyrotechnic, which is a fire that we did on 4th of July. We shot pyrotechnics. That means we technically set up the fire to go up into the sky to burst out and create all those beautiful fireworks that we look at.
Controlled fire.
Controlled fire.
Got you.
And what we're talking about is we're shooting for our tongue to be a controlled fire. But God is really helping us see that it's a fire and a world, a universe of iniquity. Still reading from James 3, chapter 6. So is the tongue among our members, that it defiles the whole body. Actually, again, the whole body, meaning it defiles the whole circle of our life.
Wow.
Okay. And you'll understand this when you listen to the rest of it. And sets on fire the course of our nature.
Good gracious.
Our very being. And it is set on fire of hell. Now, these are strong statements.
It is.
I mean, think about it. Of all the things in the universe that God could have attributed to these kind of words, he's saying this is
right.
This sets on course the circle of your life, the cycle of your life. This sets on course the very nature of who you are. And this sets on course the very fires is set on course by hell. He's saying, I'm telling you, you don't really understand the depth of it. You haven't given consideration for it. You haven't really given enough to considering what you say.
Wow.
Because if you really understood how important it is to God, people go and we go to church and we worship God. Hallelujah. We're doing all these things and we give no attention to the things that are important to God.
Wow. Wow.
It's so important to God that he says your very salvation is based on it. Doesn't the scripture, what's the scripture say?
Absolutely. Because if you believe in your heart
confess with your
mouth,
Jesus is Lord,
thou shalt be saved.
You shall be saved.
There it is.
Confess with your mouth.
Yeah.
So why do we tell people to confess Jesus from their mouth? Because our words, what we say, is very important to God.
Powerful.
And he knows that it actually affects the cycle and course of our life. See, a lot of times, because we are not conscious of these things, we wonder why our life is the way it is.
You're saying something.
You know, we wonder why we're in a, let's say, a bad mood all the time. Or why things don't always seem to work out right for me. That's because that's what you say all the time. Things don't always work out right for me.
Right.
And because you have not learned the skill to say, I am going to look for what is working right for me.
Okay. Okay.
Because the fire of your tongue is setting the course, the circle of your life. The cycle of your life. And that you don't even realize that hell, meaning those demonic things, those things that are really contrary to good, are now affecting your speech, and that affects how you move in your life.
Gracious. You know, I have a dear friend, and they would always say that something was the death of them. So they would say, oh man, you know what?
Right.
My son and his toys being all over the place, it's going to be the death of me. Or, you know, oh man, this cold is going to be the death of me. Oh, me not being able to pay my bills is going to be I said, you know what? If you say that one more time.
Right.
If you say that, will you please stop saying this stuff is going to be the death of you? Because all I could see is that cycle. And next thing you know, what happened? I tripped down the steps and died.
Right.
It was the death of them.
Right. It is a spiritual principle.
Absolutely.
It's a very important spiritual principle, but it's something that we have to give attention to because it's important to God. And here's where it really comes in. Because if you go further down in that verse 9, it says, with it, our tongue, we bless God, even the Father. And with it, we curse men, which are after the similitude or likeness of God. Now I'm gonna say a couple of things. This is loaded. We have a habit of being comfortable with allowing light and darkness to dwell together for us. Remember, we talked about the tree of good and evil, and that God was helping us see that he didn't want us to eat from that tree of good and evil, that mixture of, good and bad, that mixture of, as we're saying with our tongue, a blessing and curse.
Yes.
So we haven't been conscious of that. We have to come back to a place where we're conscious that we don't allow, because our mouth and our words and our speech are so important to God. He's saying, look, you bless me with your words, but then you'll curse your brother. You'll talk about your brother. Now I'm going to go here. But we as a people, as individuals, talk about people for a reason.
Okay.
And I'm about to tell you why we talk about people.
Why do we talk about people, Al?
We talk about people the same reason why Adam talked about Eve. When God came to Adam and says, what is this that you have done? He said, God, you ain't seen what Eve was doing. It was Eve. Eve was the one that walked among them trees. I wasn't even over there. I was over here, right here. Eve always does that. She's always wandering off. I think she disobeyed you in some other areas too, because you know how she is. That's what people do. They always say, you know how they are.
You know how you is.
Now watch this. The reason why we talk about other people is because we want to take away any responsibility or any judgment or any requirement for change. We want to take it off of ourselves and we want to put it on the other person. So we talk about the other person because we're saying they need to change and something wrong with them, because we don't want to believe something's wrong with us.
Okay.
And they need to change because we don't want to change ourselves. And we start talking and talking because that's why we have murmuring and complaining. Because we don't, as a people, I'm going to put myself in, I don't want to change. When I'm talking about somebody, it's because I don't want to change. I want to put it off of myself and put it on someone else the same way Adam did to Eve.
I mean, that's going back to some things that we talked about previous about fight and flight or defense mechanisms. There is a whole series of defense mechanisms that people respond to, and they may not even know, Al, that they're doing it.
Well, they're afraid.
Right.
We have fear to look inside ourselves. So when we put it off on someone else, it's almost like there are sometimes when people get into circumstances and situations where they want the attention to be on somebody else. So if you laugh at somebody else for what they're doing, that takes it off of you.
Right.
So nobody laughs at you for what you're doing.
Right. Okay, Al, remember?
Okay.
Well, remember when you were talking about in the last show, you were making mention of your nose.
Right.
I have a large forehead. Okay. I got a large forehead.
Right.
So in a situation like that, what I might have done is said, look at Al's nose. Look at Al's nose.
Right.
Because the more I talk about your nose, the less people are going to pay attention to my big forehead.
Exactly. So that's what Adam did to Eve. It's a diversionary tactic that we do because we don't want to address what's going on with us. We don't want people to see us because we want to remain hidden. And so we talk about other people. Our words are used it's like a dagger. It's not a good tool. We don't use it as a good tool because our words can be a good tool. We'll talk about how we skillfully use our words as good tools.
Right. But
we will dig into people. We will talk about people behind it. And people always say, I notice that people say, well, I don't like going over here, or I don't like dealing with this person, because they talk about people. And then they'll talk about that person and keep talking about them and what's going on with them. I'm saying, I thought you don't like people talking about somebody, but you're sitting here talking about somebody because we are comforted. As you said, it's a defensive mechanism. We are comforted. We are able to not deal with our own thoughts and feelings when we project and talk about other people and put them in a negative light.
Right.
And that makes us feel better about ourselves. Or if it doesn't make us feel better about ourselves, it at least takes away any attention that might be negative about ourselves.
Wow.
And so at the last part of this, it says that we don't recognize the reason why we talk about people. Ultimately, Greg, is because we don't understand that is God that we're speaking to. It is Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Yeah, it is.
When you talk about someone, you're actually talking about your maker, because as James has said in 9, it says, with it we curse men which are made after the likeness of God.
Right.
And when we talk about other people, not only are we distracting it from our own self and we're trying to get away from looking at our own issues, we are talking about the God that we say we serve himself. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining me with Advice for Life. Each week, we will share advice on how to utilize family strengthening skills to help you to have better relationships in every area of your life. Your life, your love, and your relationships will get better and brighter. Have a beautiful day, and God bless you.
You've been listening to Advice for Life with Al Laws, CEO of Win Family Services. Call in and share your issue that you would like for us to discuss on the air. Please be brief so we can capture the complete scenario. Call 410-578-8004. Again, that's 410-578-8004. Follow us on Facebook at Advice, 4, and Life. Check us out online at www.adviceforlife.us. That's www.adviceforlife.us. You can also check us out and listen to different scenarios and the shows there online. And listen to us.
every Sunday morning here on Heaven 600 at 9 a.m. Thank you and have a blessed day.